Game of Thrones Season 4 brings up a lot of good memories for me personally. 2014 and the show was about to hit the peak of its fame. I was in Berlin at the time, and me and my friends from German class would spend all Monday avoiding spoilers before finally meeting up at somebody's house to watch the show together over burgers and fries. Yeah, we were those guys, but seven hells those were the days. Anyway, Season 4 adapts the second half of A Storm of Swords and is by many regarded as the best Game of Thrones season. And who can blame them? It's the only one with Pedro Pascal in it. Thanks to continued respect for the source material and more brilliant additions, this is the last truly good season of Game of Thrones before the downfall. Although, upon closer inspection, the cracks are starting to show even here. But that's a video for another day. Like and subscribe if you like what you see, and let's discuss the changes from A Storm of Swords to Game of Thrones Season 4. In the very first scene of the show, the White Walkers are presented as a mysterious, unstoppable force of nature. In the show, Garrett is beheaded by a White Walker and Will escapes and gets beheaded by Ned Stark. Though, in the book, it's the other way around. No, the other way around. No! There we go. And Season 4 is where we get the first glimpse of their leader, the Night King. But in the books, the White Walkers, or rather the Others, are not the zombies depicted in the show. They are described as graceful, ethereal beings with pale flesh and armor with shifting colors like the Northern Lights. And their language, not just shrill screaming, is described as sounding like cracking ice. The show went for a more traditionally monstrous look and, well, shrill screaming. Oh, and in the book, there is no Night King. Not yet, anyway. No head of the snake, so to say.
Killed him. He turned them all.
While it's understandable to want to personify the Others when adapting the book to TV, creating a Night King-sized hole in the Death Star where one can simply insert Valyrian steel and save the world is a very straightforward solution in an otherwise complex world. Not easy per se, but simple, which feels contradictory to the sort of nuance the story represents overall. Of course, we can't forget about the creepy ice castle where the Night King put on a whole ceremony to turn one of Craster's sons into a widdly-bitty White Walker. But yeah, this castle is also not in the books. While the Others in the books clearly like to chill somewhere up in the lands of Always Winter, their actual base of operations, if they have or even need one, remains undisclosed. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is flooded with spam, this is why. Honestly, seeing my personal information scattered across these sites like this makes me deeply uncomfortable. And that's why I'm grateful for today's sponsor, Aura. Data brokers sell our data without our consent, making billions. They sell to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. Now, they are legally obliged to remove this data if asked, but they make this process really complicated and confusing on purpose. I recommend Aura to my friends and family, especially those in North America. Aura handles the hard part, like automatically removing our info off of these scammy sites. Aura has dark web monitoring alerts, real-time fraud alerts for credit cards, 24/7 identity monitoring, VPN, of course, antivirus, password manager, and a $5 million identity theft insurance, plus 24/7 US-based support. How do you feel about these companies ripping you off and selling your data for profit? Well, I don't like it, and that's why I choose Aura. Try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/culturevulture. You'll discover where your data is being exposed and sold. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable on the internet anymore, and neither should you. When Jaime gives Brienne the Valyrian steel sword Oathkeeper and sends her to find the Stark girls and uphold the oath he swore to Catelyn, both book and show sees her set out on an epic quest, but while show Brienne's journey is pretty straightforward,
You're Arya Stark.
My name is Jeff.
Sansa Stark. Don't look.
book Brienne's is anything but. See, she never finds the Stark girls or fights the Hound. Instead, she wanders through the war-torn Riverlands, linking up with colorful characters like Nimble Dick Crab, a sketchy local guide who leads them through the mysterious Crackclaw Point, where he takes a Morningstar to the knee. And the face. Then there's our Hyle Hunt, but let's be honest, nobody cares. On the other hand, book readers may feel somewhat cheated by the omission of the Quiet Isle, as Brienne and Pod go there looking for a certain Sandor Clegane. But why go all the way over there? Well, rumor has it that he is traveling with a girl matching the description of Arya Stark. At the Quiet Isle, they meet a Septon and notice a distinctly large hooded man digging graves and an angry stallion in the stables. In the book, Clegane's horse is notoriously mean. He even bears the name Stranger after the god of death. So all evidence suggests that this gravedigger is the very Hound Brienne is looking for. However, when speaking to the Septon that saved Private Sandor, Brienne is told that the Hound is dead. What she doesn't realize is that the Septon refers to a metaphorical death, that of the man he was before. So we can most likely expect a similar return of Sandor Clegane in the books to what happened in the show.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
And instead of finding Sansa at the Crossroads Inn, she finds a young man who bears a striking resemblance to Renly. But they get ambushed by the brave companions, Shagwell, Rorsch, and Biter, who bites her in the face, nearly killing her. She is saved, however, by the young man who turns out to be none other than Gendry. In the book, he never gets sold to Melisandre and never has to escape Dragonstone, but stays with the Brotherhood without banners. The attack leaves Brienne permanently disfigured and adds another layer to the dark irony of her nickname, Brienne the Beauty. Similarly to Tyrion's horrific injury at the Blackwater, the show significantly downplays this by omitting it completely. Let me know if you agree with that change or not. Ultimately, Brienne's meandering journey was always going to be trimmed down for TV, but all of this came at a price, because who Book Brienne runs into next is perhaps the single biggest omission from the book in the entire show. After the Red Wedding, the body of Catelyn Stark is found floating and bloating in the Green Fork.
They cut her throat to the bone and threw her body in the river.
And is brought back to life by Beric Dondarrion, who transfers his remaining life force to Catelyn and dies in her stead. But being resurrected in such poor condition leaves her voice raspy and hard to understand. Nevertheless, she replaces Beric as the leader of the Brotherhood without banners, with whom she roams the Riverlands on the hunt for Boltons, Freys, and Lannisters to satisfy her bottomless thirst for revenge. Here, she eventually encounters Brienne, who at this point is walking around with a Lannister sword, armor, squire, and gold in her pockets, which Stoneheart takes as evidence of Brienne's betrayal. The Brotherhood captures Brienne and gives her an ultimatum to prove her loyalty. Go out and kill Jaime, or be hanged as a traitor. Sword or noose. This makes Brienne as torn between oaths as Jaime once was, and when she refuses to choose, she is sentenced to hang along with Podrick. But choking on the noose next to Podrick makes her cry out. We don't know exactly what she says, but most likely she agrees to Stoneheart's terms. Later in A Dance with Dragons, Brienne shows up in one of Jaime's chapters and tells him that he must go with her, alone, or Sandor Clegane will kill Sansa. This is likely a lie she tells in order to trap and kill Jaime. Or, better, take him on a mission to rescue Pod from Lady Stoneheart. Jaime agrees to accompany her, and that is the last we see of either of them in the books. While totally badass, Lady Stoneheart isn't exactly a quintessential character. But who knows, maybe she'll eventually run into Arya, who, of course, is also on a vengeful path to kill Freys and Lannisters, showing her what vengeance does to a woman when utterly consumed by it. Remember the Night's Watch mutineers who killed Lord Commander Mormont at Craster's Keep in Season 3? Well, the show took quite a few liberties with these characters, particularly with the colorful addition of their leader, Carl.
Carl Tanner from Gin Alley, drinking wine from the skull of Gior. F***ing Mormont.
In the show, Carl is a former assassin from King's Landing who takes charge after the mutiny.
I was a f***ing legend, Gin Alley. A f***ing legend!
He also captures Bran and gang when they stumble through on their way north, which creates a heartbreaking near-miss moment when Jon arrives to root out the traitors.
He sees you, he won't let you go north.
But book readers might raise an eyebrow here, because Book Carl, known as Clubfoot Carl, is a far cry from the legendary killer in the show, as he has a physical disability and plays a much smaller role in the mutiny. So the book never sees Jon embark on this dramatic expedition, no confrontation between him and Carl, and no near miss with Bran. As for the Mutineers, well, they just kinda die off as they run out of resources or wander off and get eaten by Bran's direwolf. One of the show's biggest mistakes, in my opinion, was how they interpreted the Three-Eyed Raven. You see, instead of the nice old man teaching Bran to become a creepy CCTV, the books present something far more unsettling. A hive mind-like entity that doesn't give two wet shits for saving the world. In the book, Bran has a vision of the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled and everything, which indicates that Bran may not be the first candidate for the Three-Eyed Raven's next vessel. So, are we watching Bran become a powerful force of good, or are we watching him being taken over by an evil hive mind? Will Bran realize what's going on and flee before being fully consumed, asking Hodor to hold the door not against undead whites, but against the children of the forest themselves? Regardless, this change loses that delicious moral ambiguity that makes George R.R. Martin's world so compelling. Tysha, if you don't remember, is Tyrion's first love. He and Jaime happen upon her as she was being attacked by outlaws.
Her name was Tysha. She was a wheelwright's orphan, and somehow I found myself in her bed. And by morning I was deep enough in love to ask for her hand.
But the honeymoon didn't last long. Only a fortnight later, Tywin got wind of the marriage and set to teaching his son a lesson.
First, my father had Jaime tell me the truth. The girl was a whore, you see. Jaime had arranged the whole thing. The road, the rapers, all of it. My father brought in my wife and gave her to his guards. He brought me into the barracks and made me watch.
This is all told exactly as in the books. But the crucial difference comes as Jaime frees Tyrion before being executed. Where the show sticks to the established story in the book, Jaime tells Tyrion that Tysha was actually for real, and that her being a whore was just something Tywin made him say. Finding out that Tysha really loved him and that Jaime, his last ally, lied to him all these years becomes the final turning point where Tyrion forsakes his family once and for all, kickstarting a campaign to become the villain they all think he is.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you.
He starts by lying to Jaime that he did kill Joffrey, before bidding farewell and sneaking off to the Tower of the Hand, where he finds Shae and kills her, not reluctantly like in the show, but in cold blood. When finding his dad on the privy, he asks him what happened to Tysha and where she went, but Tywin only shrugs and says, "Wherever whores go." A phrase that sticks on Tyrion's brain worse than a Marillion 5 song, and he reluctantly ponders where whores go indeed, dreaming about running into Tysha again wherever he goes. Season 4 has some of the most memorable action scenes in the whole show. The chicken scene, Oberyn versus the Mountain, and of course, Brienne versus the Hound. This all goes down after Arya and Clegane run into Brienne and Podrick, who just so happen to be looking for her.
I swore to your mother I would bring you home to her. I'll take you to safety.
Safety? Where the f***'s that? There's no safety, you dumb bitch.
Never mind the likelihood of them running into each other off the beaten path in the enormity of the Vale. This is the climax of seasons worth of build-up, as two protagonists, unwittingly fighting for the same goal, collide, and the Hound, for all his callousness, shows that deep down, he really does care.
You don't know that by now. You're the wrong one to watch over her.
And that's what you're doing? Watching over her?
Aye, that's what I'm doing.
The Hound ends up losing the fight and is mortally wounded. But despite having just fought for her, Arya avenges Micah from episode 2, not by killing the Hound, but by taking his money and denying him the gift of mercy, leaving him to suffer.
Kill me!
But in the book, the Hound never fights Brienne, and he never confesses to caring for Arya. Instead, Booksander sustains his wounds and is left to die after the chicken fight against the Lannister soldiers.
You're gonna die for some chickens.
Someone is.
Another really cool piece of world building omitted from the show is the Temple of the Graces in Meereen, a complex all-female hierarchy at the head of the old Giscari religion. Think a combination of the Wheel of Time's Aes Sedai and Dune's Bene Gesserit, plus prostitution. The Graces are organized into 7 distinct orders identified by colored robes. Most notably the Green Graces, who serve as High Priestesses. The Blue Graces serve as healers, and the Red Graces, who are learned in the ways of sacred sexuality, companionship, and emotional healing through holy rites. In Meereen, Galassa Galare, the Green Grace and High Priestess, acts as Daenerys' religious advisor. At over 80 years old, her hair is white and her eyes are described as sad and full of wisdom. While advocating for peace and tolerance, she also encourages Daenerys to reopen the fighting pits, and some speculate that she might even be the mastermind behind the Sons of the Harpy. While omitting this colorful faction to benefit a more streamlined narrative is understandable, I think the successful portrayal of other complex groups and cultures, including the followers of the Lord of Light and the Faceless Men, prove that this sort of nuance is exactly what makes the world so interesting. And I don't think I'm the only one who would have liked to see them feature in the show. In Season 4, the show portrays Greyworm as developing deep feelings for Missandei. This starts when he sees her bathing with the other women after they've taken Meereen.
I am sorry.
With Greyworm being a eunuch though, his love for Missandei is not based on physical attraction alone, but a longing for emotional intimacy, maybe similar to his colleague White Rat, who goes to a brothel for this reason, but gets slain by the Sons of the Harpy. Greyworm and Missandei go on to share deep conversations, political strategy, awkward drinking games, before finally consummating their relationship in Season 7.
I was never the biggest, never the strongest, but I was bravest, always.
I believe it.
Until I meet Missandei. Now I have fear.
I do too.
Nothing foreshadows death like Confessions of Love, am I right? Now, as for the book, it is hinted that she understands the struggles of the Unsullied. Not surprising, seeing as her brothers were made Unsullied after being taken from Nuth. But Greyworm is a full-grown adult, and Missandei is only 10 years old. So their relationship never turns into romance.
Thank the gods.
Well, not as of the released books anyways. Remember Littlefinger pushing Lysa out the moon door?
I have only loved one woman my entire life. Your sister.
While this worked out just dandy for old Peter in the show, with Sansa lying for him and no one thinking twice about it, the book sees the Lords of the Vale come all the way up to cast his ass down, and the lie they tell goes that it was the singer Marillion who killed Lysa. This is corroborated by Sansa, who at the time is disguised as Littlefinger's bastard daughter, Elaine. This is not enough for the Lords of the Vale, however, but Littlefinger has a trick up his sleeve. He has secretly paid off one of the lords to break sacred guest right by drawing his sword and threatening Baelish, essentially embarrassing the lords into conceding control of the Vale to him for the time being. In the books, Littlefinger and Sansa are still in the Vale, where Baelish intends to marry her to Harold Hardying, who is the heir to the Vale if something unfortunate should befall sickly little Robert Arryn. So not Ramsay Bolton-like in the show. This makes a lot more political and personal sense, but we'll go into that in book versus Season 5. One of the best bits of dialogue in the whole season comes in this invented scene right here after Tyrion's death sentence. Jaime has just promised to leave the Kingsguard, and all Tywin needs now is for Cersei to marry Loras.
You were betrothed to Loras Tyrell, and you will marry Loras Tyrell.
I don't care. I will stay in King's Landing where I belong with my son.
This scene underlines just how far Cersei's prepared to go to be with her children, and she leverages everything she has to have her way.
I will burn our house to the ground before I let that happen.
And how will you do that?
I'll tell everyone the truth.
What truth would that be?
You don't know, do you?
See, in the book, Tywin never learns about Cersei and Jaime, But the show makes the decision to drop this bomb on him just as he thought he'd gotten all his ducks in order.
Everything they say is true about Jamie and me.
No.
Your legacy is a lie.
No, I don't believe you.
Yes, you do.
What did you think about the changes made from the book to season 4? Which omissions would you have rather seen included? Let's discuss it in the comments. Have a great day, and I'll see you again in the next video.